What's up, Exiles? Recently, I released a YouTube short where I showed myself selling 4 white item bases for 28 exalts. Since I released that short, people have been asking me, whoa, what are the best bases I should be picking up that I can possibly be selling for currency as is or crafting on to make the best items in the game? So today, I'm going to show you what are the best bases for each item spot for you to collect, pick up, and sell as is, or make a ton of currency crafting on them. Your choice. I'm Cyclone9. Welcome back, Exiles, for more PoE 2 content. Let's get right into the video. Alright, so your number one resource and ally in figuring this information out is going to be PoE2DB. There will be a link in the description to this website so you can go and utilize it for all your Path of Exile 2 needs. This is a comprehensive database with tons of information. One thing that's worth mentioning is there's going to be a ton of information in this video. I don't expect you to memorize it all or store it in your brain immediately, or even have the need to go through each section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp each area so you can skip around in the video. You can go to gloves, boots, body armors, quarterstaffs, whatever you're looking for specifically to find the best base for that item type. So you can skip around on the video and go get the information you need. In addition, I'm going to be providing a resource that'll be linked in the description as well that has a breakdown of the best bases in each item type as well. So that'll be a great resource for you guys to utilize, and I hope you're going to enjoy the bounty that it will bring you. All right, let's get right into it. So first thing we're going to do is check out body armors, because in the short I released, I sold 4 Expert Hexer's robes, which is the highest energy shield base you can get for body armor in the game. I sold those bases for 7 exalts each, and I sold 4 to one individual who was looking to do some crafting. So we're going to go ahead and open up the body armor section, and right here you come to this tab. The first one it's going to show you is uniques, which we're not getting into today. So we're going to go over to this tab over here where it just shows your base item types. First thing you're going to want to do is scroll to the bottom of this page to go and check out the highest tier base types in the body armor category. Let's see what we can find here. The first base I want to point out is the one in the YouTube short. So that's the Expert Hexer's robe. The good thing about this base, it has the highest energy shield of any body armor base in the game. So that's one that is highly prioritized by people running energy shield. There's a couple other notables to point out. You got the Expert Altar Robe and the Expert Keth Raiment. What's good about these bases is that they have an implicit associated with them. So with the Expert Altar Robe, you get faster start of energy shield recharge. And that's always going to be on this base. It can't be altered by crafting. It's something that's permanent. For Expert Keth, you're going to get increased mana regeneration rate. So with those two bases, you get a guaranteed implicit, but you start at a slightly lower number in terms of the base energy shield value. It's those 3 you're going to be looking at in terms of having the best body armor for energy shield. When it comes to flat evasion, the number 1 body armor base you're going to be looking towards is the Expert Studded Vest. Starting with 487 evasion, that's going to be the highest that you can get in the game currently for a base. There's one other notable, and that's going to be the Expert Serpent Scale Coat. It has a little bit less starting evasion, but it gives you the guaranteed implicit of increased elemental ailment threshold. So those are your best evasion rating body armor bases in the game. Moving on to armor. So if you're wanting to get the highest flat armor base in the game, you're going to be looking towards the Expert Iron Cuirass. So this has a base of 534. That's the highest you can get. There are 2 other notables. So you got the Expert Val, which is going to give you the implicit of increased stun threshold, and you have the Expert Steel Plate, which is going to give you a little bit of life regen per second if that's what's needed. All right, moving on to hybrid body armors. In terms of hybrid, that means it has 2 defensive layers. First off, we're going to be looking at evasion rating and energy shield hybrid body armors, and there's a couple that are very notable to point out that people are definitely utilizing in their builds. Number 1, the Expert Scalper's Jacket. So what's fantastic about this base is you get the implicit 5% increased movement speed, and there's a lot of players prioritizing movement speed in this game. Highly sought after stat, and you can get it here on a body armor, which is pretty fantastic. So that's one to look at. Next one we're going to check out is the Expert Wayfarer Jacket. This is a fantastic hybrid base that gives you chaos resistance as the implicit. So chaos resistance is pretty hard to come by, very hard to max out in this game. So anywhere you can get it is pretty fantastic. This is a base you should be picking up to sell as is or to be crafting on to get that additional chaos resistance for anyone that's utilizing both evasion and energy shield in their build. Moving on, we're going to check out the Armour energy shield hybrids. And here's the first one I want to point out. It's the Expert Sacrificial Mantle. This one gives you a fantastic implicit that gives you plus 1% to all maximum elemental resistances. A great base. That plus additional percent allows you to negate extra damage when it comes to elemental damage, which is very useful. And then there's one other notable here, the Expert Shaman Mantle, which gives you the implicit of plus 20 to 30 to spirit. So anyone running minions or builds that require a lot of high spirit, this is going to be one you'll definitely be looking at. And you can pick these up, sell them as is, or craft on them for sure. All right, finally, we're going to be looking at armor evasion rating bases. And there's a couple to point out here. So first, we're going to start with the Expert Cloaked Mail. This comes in 3 varieties, one for each elemental resistance respectively. And they have that implicit to those resistances on this base. So you can get a lightning, a cold, or a fire resistance version of this armor. Right after that, you're going to have your Expert Rogue armor. This is great because it comes with the implicit of plus 60 to 80 maximum life. So that's a fantastic option for anyone trying to utilize armor and evasion rating in their build. All right, guys, that concludes the body armor section, which has the highest variety of tier 1 options. As we move into gloves, it's going to get a lot simpler. So let's go ahead and check out gloves. First off, we're going to look at the highest tier energy shield gloves, which are going to be your Expert Intricate gloves with 50 energy shield. Moving right along, we have the Expert Spined Bracers, which are your highest evasion rating gloves at 133. Finally, you have your Expert Molded Mitts, your highest armor base at 146 armor. Moving on to hybrid pieces, we have the Expert Spiral Wraps. That's going to be your highest evasion rating energy shield base. For those of you looking to utilize armor and energy shield, you're going to be looking at the Expert Gold Cast Cuffs as your tier 1 base. And finally, our last candidate in the gloves tier 1 section is going to be for armor and evasion, and that's going to be your Expert Doubled Gauntlets. Those are the tier 1 bases for the glove item type. Pretty simple. Let's move on to the next category. All right, boys and girls, let's check out the tier 1 bases in the boots category. First off, the tier 1 energy shield base for boots is going to be your Expert Feathered Sandals, starting with a base of 75 energy shield. Following that, you're going to have your Expert Lizard Scale boots. This is going to be your tier 1 for evasion rating, and it has a base of 200 evasion rating. Following that, for armor, the tier 1 base is going to be the Expert Stone Greaves, starting with a base of 219 armor. Getting into the hybrid sets, we're going to be looking at evasion with energy shield. The tier 1 base for that is going to be your Expert Hunting Shoes. If you're looking to utilize armor and energy shield, the tier 1 base is your Expert Pelt Leggings. Finally, for those of us that want to do armor and evasion, you're going to be looking at the Expert Stacked Sabatons for the tier 1 base for armor and evasion rating. That concludes the boots section. Moving right along. Right, let's look at some helmets, shall we? The number one base for energy shield in the helmet category goes to Expert Feathered Tiara with a base energy shield of 101. The tier 1 base for evasion in the helmet category goes to Expert Hunter Hood. It's going to give you 266 base evasion. Our tier 1 helm in the armor category is Expert Elite Great Helm with a base armor of 292. Moving on to the hybrid section, we have evasion and energy shield hybrids. The tier 1 in that category is going to be the Expert Tribal Mask. For hybrid armor energy shield, tier 1 base is Expert Heavy Crown. And lastly, for armor and evasion, you're looking at the Expert Shielded Helm. Those are going to be all your tier 1 helmet bases. Awesome. So that concludes the whole armor section. Now let's get into the fun stuff. Weapons. One thing to note, I'm not going to go over every single weapon. I'm just going to go over some very specific notables that people are using in their meta builds and that are highly sought after bases. Let's start with my favorite category being a minion witch infernalist, Scepters. So the number one base that you're going to be looking out for in terms of Scepters is the Rattling Scepter. That's going to grant you the skill Skeleton Warrior, and anyone running minions is pretty much running this Scepter. So highly sought after base, highly recommend picking it up. And if you're going to be crafting your own, the two things you're mainly looking for are plus to spirit and plus to minion level skills. Those are the two big ones. Your max roll for plus to minion levels is actually +5. And if you happen to craft a scepter with that affix on it, you have just hit the jackpot, because those are very expensive. Right, next up we are looking at bows for all of my ranger and mercenary friends alike. And there is one base that stands leagues above the others, and you'll see in a lot of meta builds, and that is the Expert Dual String Bow. What makes this base so special is that it has the implicit bow attacks fire an additional arrow, which is pretty overpowered. If you stumble across one of these bases, definitely pick it up, do your own crafting, or you're going to encounter people that want to purchase these from you to do their own crafting as well. The number one thing you're going to be looking for on a bow such as this is increased physical damage, flat damage, preferably physical, attack speed, bow attacks fire additional arrows, or plus to level of all projectile skills. You could also put some accuracy on there. That's not a terrible thing as well. This is a fantastic bow, and if you see any of these white bases, they're definitely worth something to someone if you're not going to craft on them personally. Next up, we're going to be talking Quarterstaffs for all of the monk enjoyers out there. And in this category, we have a couple top tier bases that you could take a look at, starting with the Expert Slicing Quarterstaff. This is the number one pick if you're just going for raw damage. It's going to have the highest base damage of any quarterstaff. The second one we're going to be checking out, which a lot of people are utilizing, and I'll tell you the reason why, is the Expert Gothic Quarterstaff. This is a great staff because it has the highest critical hit chance to start off of any base quarterstaff. So that's definitely an option, and a good one at that if you're going crit. Finally, if you want to go a more defensive option, and we see less builds using this, but some definitely are, the Expert Barrier Quarterstaff. The reason to go with this staff is it gives you the implicit of 10 to 15% to block chance. So those are your top tier quarterstaffs for all of the monk enjoyers. Now we're going to take a look at crossbows, and I'm only really going to cover one in this category because for the builds that are utilizing crossbows, one stands leagues above in its usage cases, and that's going to be the Expert Bombard Crossbow. The reason why this is such a good base is because it has the implicit grenade skills fire an additional projectile. So you'd be pumping out those grenades and blowing up the entire screen with this base. You can go ahead and check out what else is over here. Some people use Expert Forlorn, highest DPS, Expert Tense Crossbow for increased bolt speed. But the main one you're going to want to be looking at is the Expert Bombard Crossbow. All right, let's take a look at Quivers. In the quiver section, we kind of got 3 that stand above the rest, but there is one that definitely seems to be the upper echelon, and that's going to be the primed quiver. Prime quiver gives increase to attack speed and is probably utilized in the most amount of builds that are going with bows. You're also going to see penetrating quiver for 100% chance to pierce an enemy. And sometimes you'll also see visceral quiver for that 20 to 30% increased critical hit chance for attacks for those heavily focused on crits in their build. But the main one, if you're only going to pick up one, I'd say go with the primed quiver. Looking at shields, I got 3 I want to bring to your attention. The first one we're going to check out is the Expert Stone Tower Shield. That's going to be the highest base for pure armor in a shield. Secondly, we have the Expert Feathered Targe, which is the highest for a hybrid armor evasion build. And finally, I think the most sought after base for shields is going to be the Expert Omen Crest Shield, which is an armor energy hybrid shield. If you're going to pick up just one base to craft on and or sell, I'd probably be picking up this one. Moving right along to focuses, this is going to be an easy one. There's no implicits on these, so you're just looking for the highest energy shield focus you can get, and that's going to be the Expert Plumed Focus. If you want to pick up any base that's a focus, this is the one you're wanting. When it comes to amulets, pretty much any base can work, but there's a couple prefixes and suffixes that you're really going to be looking for that are going to give you something that can be priced very highly. So, first off, plus level to all spell, minion, melee, or projectile skills. You can get up to +3 on any of these, and if you hit a +3, you've got something of great value. Even a lot of +2s are going for a lot of money on the trade site. Next up, Chaos Resistance. Chaos Resistance is hard to acquire. If you get a good Chaos Resistance roll on an amulet, you're starting with something good there. Another one that a lot of people are looking for, it's pretty hard to find, is plus to Spirit. So yeah, if you get a high Spirit roll, that could be a valuable amulet as well. You're always going to be wanting to mix it with the other defensive layers, elemental resistances, energy shield, armor, evasion, life, and mana, etc. So that's pretty much it about amulets. Next, we're talking rings. And again, pretty much any ring base can work. It's more about what you're actually putting on it. I feel like oftentimes in builds, rings are where you're going to shore up a lot of your resistances. So chaos resistance is always highly sought after. You can also get the attributes you're needing for your build in this slot. So sometimes high strength attacks or int or all attribute rolls are going to be pretty good. But oftentimes you're just looking to shore up your resistances. So any of the elemental resistances, all res, chaos res, that's really good stuff. You throw in an offensive prefix from time to time, so you can get, fire, cold, lightning damage, chaos damage, or you can get flat damage to attacks if all the elementals are physical. But that's going to be more specific to a certain build as opposed to more general. Lastly, and I didn't mention this about attributes or anywhere else in terms of equipment, but rarity. Right now, rarity is super good. So if you can squeeze it in anywhere in your build, it's going to help you with grinding currency and better loot in general. And it also affects gold, which is pretty awesome. So rarity, squeeze it in wherever you can. All right, boys and girls, we are on the last category for the video. You made it. Yay! Let's talk about belts. Again, a lot of the belt bases are going to work just fine. It's more about what is on them. So the most highly prioritized, as far as I am concerned, are charm slots. So you can get, up to +2 charm slots, giving you 3 charms in general. That's going to be a big one. Followed by chaos resistance, any of the elemental resistances, a high strength roll, high life roll, high mana roll, and high armor roll. Those are the things you're wanting to see on your belt, and that about sums it up. All right, boys and girls, if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and shoot me the like, the comment, and the subscribe. I'm a new content creator, so I am reading and replying to every comment, and I do appreciate it, as all that stuff is what helps me keep going and be motivated to make more content like this. If you want to recap or to revisit any of the sections, you can use the timestamps. And again, I hope you enjoyed. You can catch me streaming live on Twitch and on YouTube at Cyclone9. I'd love for you guys to come kick it and hang out with me in chat. Oftentimes I'm doing exercise challenges after every completed map, so you can get fit with me while we're grinding in array class together. Come hang out. So once again, Cyclone9, appreciate you guys watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace, love, abundance to you and yours.